President-elect Donald Trump has vowed to drastically reform U.S. immigration policy once he takes office in January.
These changes could impact the more than 11 million undocumented immigrants living in the United States right now. Trump has said his plan includes conducting the largest mass deportation program in U.S. history. Trump and his team have also vowed to end birthright citizenship, send troops to the southern border, and end several Biden administration programs that allowed hundreds of thousands of migrants to enter and work in the United States. CBS News immigration and politics reporter Camilo Montoya-Galvez joins us now. And Camilo, let's start with Trump's mass deportation plan. What do we know about it, and how does he plan to enforce it?
Well, this is really the pillar of the second Trump administration's immigration agenda. Former President Donald Trump and now President-elect Trump has repeatedly promised to oversee the largest deportation operation in American history, modeled after that infamous Operation Wetback during the 1950s under the presidency of President Eisenhower. And he has said that he will start with migrants who have committed criminal convictions and who have committed crimes here, and also national security threats. But we spoke to former ICE official Tom Homan, who was very likely to join a second Trump administration, and he told us and told 60 Minutes for that project that this operation will move beyond criminals and national security threats, that it will also target migrants who are not criminals but who are otherwise in the U.S. illegally. And that would be a seismic shift in policy, because under current Biden administration policy, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, is largely only focused on arresting and deporting serious criminals and national security threats, not grandmas, families, and other populations who are in the country illegally but have otherwise been law-abiding immigrants in the U.S. So that would be a major change in policy. However, this operation will face formidable legal, humanitarian, and financial challenges. Right now, Immigration and Customs Enforcement only has 6,000 deportation agents and 41 detention beds, and that is not nearly enough to detain and deport everyone who is here illegally. And there's also the question of what happens to mixed status families. These are families that include undocumented immigrants, but also permanent residents and U.S. citizens. We have a lot of families in the U.S., about 4 million children who live with an undocumented parent. What happens to those children? Do they get returned to their home countries together? Do the families get separated? These are questions that the second Trump administration will face for sure.
Camilo, we only have about a minute left, but is there an argument that the incoming Trump administration will be successful in implementing these promises? And if so, why?
Yes, certainly, because the incoming Trump administration believes that they have a mandate to carry out these policies, in a way that really they did not have back in 2016, when obviously former President Trump won the election but lost a popular vote. And now, not only is he winning the popular vote, but many of his signature immigration pledges, including that mass deportation promise, have been garnering increasing support among the public. Poll after poll has shown that, including among Latino voters. And so they believe the public is now behind them on the issue of immigration, and that they have a mandate to carry out the largest deportation operation in American history.
Camilo Montoya-Galvez, thank you for joining us.